Hey guys, welcome to a new episode of FLOPBUSTER. This week it's all about Dracula 2000.
Wes Craven presents Dracula
Wes Craven
2000.
presents Dracula 2000. I don't know what the hell he has to do with this movie.
Nothing at all.
Maybe he was in the room and they're like, we have this idea. It's going to be a very sexy, hip, young vampire. And he's like, I like that. That's a great idea.
Run with it.
Run with it. And then he just puts his name on it. And now we have Dracula 2000. I feel like in the late 2000s, there was always the hip Scream style movie.
Right.
So we have the Alien movie, The Faculty. We have the slasher movie, Scream, H2O. Now we have the vampire movie,
right.
Dracula 2000. So it really does feel like Scream, or I Know What You Did Last Summer. You
right.
have a hip young cast. And we're going to talk about it.
You're going to love it, and we're going to redeem it.
We're going to redeem it. You're going to love this movie.
Yes, you are.
And all of its 17% glory from Rotten Tomatoes, which it does not deserve.
No, it should actually be higher. In fact, one of the most hated horror movies, Seed of Chucky, has a 35% on Rotten Tomatoes.
35%. That movie does not deserve 35%.
No, it should flip-flop. At least to 40%.
40. See, Chucky should get 40%?
No, Dracula 2000.
Oh, Dracula 2000. Yeah, this movie, we could just jump right into it. So I really actually enjoyed this movie, which says a lot because recently Gabe's been picking some terrible movies.
I am the king of terrible movies. I love terrible movies.
You know, I've always had this movie on as like background noise and stuff during like Halloween season.
Right.
I'd be working on stuff, this would be on, or I probably have seen it once upon a time on VHS, but I only remember a few things. Johnny Lee Miller. I don't even remember Christopher Plummer being in this, but I finally sat down. I watched it fully, gave it all my attention, and this movie is not that bad at all.
No, not at all. So one of the reasons why I pushed for this, because I've been talking about it for a couple of weeks, is because to me it's one of my favorite vampire movies of all time. I know you like to mention Lost Boys as yours and all this, but
I think for me it's the... He's very sexy. The Holy Grail is Lost Boys, Fright Night, and Near Dark.
which is a good, good top three.
Yeah, those are the three. Those are like the 80s three vampire movies
but
right there.
To me, this one hits a story that really makes me just absolutely love it. I mean, you have a very sexy vampire in Gerard Butler.
He's very sexy. His hair is perfectly done.
Perfect
He's always
hair.
wearing black.
Wearing black like the Matrix. He's like a vampire Neo.
He says about 3 things in this movie.
That's all you needed to say. All he does is with a glare. He does the vampire glare.
Yeah, it's like Blue Steel. Like he just looks and boom, you know it. You know,
right.
Like, damn, I think I really do want to be a vampire. For a split second, a lot of these people, he gets them.
Selena?
So, yeah, we have a hot young cast. We have Omar Epps, Jennifer Esposito. We have Johnny Lee Miller, who goes on to play Sherlock Holmes. This is like one of his first roles here. He's sort of like the hero of the movie.
Danny Masterson, who at his height was Hyde from the 70s show.
I always forget this guy's name. He was in Night at the Roxbury, White Chicks. He's part of the crew when they
I know
Dracula's tomb.
Yes, but he dies very early.
He dies very early.
Jesus Christ!
And then we have our veteran actor Christopher Plummer, who's this thespian, perfectly cast as Van Helsing. Probably one of my favorite Van Helsings on screen. Everything with him, I was really digging. All the lore and backstory that he had with Dracula, like their sort of rivalry, really worked for me.
Yeah, and that's all part of the story. Like I said, when I talk about my favorite vampire movies, it's all about the story, and it follows very closely to the Dracula novel, Bram Stoker's. I mean, there's a lot of similarities. Maybe they changed a couple things.
They do change some things and update some things, but there's even some character names and stuff that they bring forward. Like the main character's best friend, her name is Lucy Winfield, I think.
Yeah.
Or Winchester, something like that. They change it. It's Lucy in the book, but a different last name. So it's like little Easter egg stuff that they pull from Bram Stoker's Dracula.
And going back to where you were talking about Van Helsing, is what I thought was cool is that he was using leeches from Dracula to keep himself young and immortal. Yeah,
so he could figure out a way to finally defeat Dracula.
Finally kill him, yes.
Which I thought was kind of cool. So it adds that these guys battled forever. These guys always were.
I mean, that's part of the lore, right? That's all vampire lore. I mean, before you got to those shitty ass Twilight movies, the lore of vampires has always been, Van Helsing versus Dracula.
Van Helsing versus Dracula, from the Hammer horror movies to Francis Ford Coppola's movie. It's always been about that rivalry.
Yes.
And I always feel like Van Helsing's a character that, we always see him, but he's never given his due. And that's one of my issues with this movie.
Really?
Yep. I loved everything with Van Helsing up until his death.
Yeah.
I thought it was a terrible way for that actor and the character to go out. It was just poorly written.
Yeah, his death was off screen, obviously, and then you don't know until,
You don't know till later, and they kind of mess with you because we know the main character keeps getting visions that are or aren't true.
Right.
So it's just like, okay, maybe she imagined it, and it's like, no, he really does go out that way. Which is a bummer, and that's one of my negatives with the movie. That's one of the true negatives with it, is how they handle Christopher Plummer's Van Helsing. But everything else I really like. The whole cast is just it's young, hip stars at that time.
I mean, the movie came out in 2000, so it was definitely a product of Scream. It was made by Miramax, who also produced Scream.
They produced all those movies. They were the ones putting them out. Miramax and Dimension were the ones that were really handling all that.
So I want to get into Wes Craven Presents, because you told me earlier that you thought all this time Wes Craven made the movie.
Yeah.
And then you find out yesterday or this morning that
he
didn't.
He did nothing. Yeah.
So Harvey Weinstein bought the script because he loved the name. He only bought the script because he loved the name.
Sounds like him.
He's like, I love the name Dracula 2000. So he enlisted another screenwriter to write it. Then he hated that version, and he paid somebody else to rewrite it. So I don't think Wes Craven had anything to do with this movie at all whatsoever. It's just, I think they were working on Scream, and Weinstein was like...
Maybe he might have been near the pitch room or something. They're like, hey, Wes, do you want to come take a look at this?
Could we use your name, for this? And he's like, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it could have been that he just gave the movie his blessing. I mean, it takes all the structure of, like we said, a Scream movie, or I Know What You Did Last Summer, or The Faculty or something, and they kind of use a lot of the same sort of people that you would see in these kind of things. Now, we should probably talk about the kills. There's quite a few kills in this movie, and something I really like about this version of Dracula is how we first meet him. The look that he's got. He's wearing the silver helmet. He's grayish. He looks decrepit and disgusting, and it's one of the coolest effects of the movie that I wish they used way more, but they don't. They give a sexy Dracula right after that.
One of the aspects that I liked is that when he turned into a werewolf just by bats, they bring in werewolves into this whole story, but he turned into, all of a sudden it's just bats flying out.
That's something that's always been in vampire lore too, that kind of gets ignored, is that Dracula can turn into a werewolf. It happens all the time. It happens in Fright Night too. We have a character that turns into a wolf. So this is where I would say some of my issues come with this movie. Again, it doesn't deserve 17%. Not at all. I would say the first half is so strong and very fun, and it's off to the races. It's really cool. We got this high-tech thieves who want to steal the coffin. They think there's something like gold or whatever in there. Dracula escapes. We have Van Helsing on their trail. The main character, who is Van Helsing's daughter, Mary, is super, super underdeveloped.
She's boring.
She's just boring.
She's very, very
And it's not the actress's fault. It's literally what they've written for her. Maybe somebody well-known could have, brought some more charisma to it. I don't know. I just think the character might just be boring.
You know what? They wrote her as a virgin Virgin Mary, very Catholic because she goes to confession. She talks to her priest.
That's where my main issues come, is Mary's super underdeveloped. And we're supposed to believe, like, the way the movie ends, it's just like, boom, now she's Van Helsing.
Like now she's a badass. Like,
yeah, like...
No. But coming from, like, myself, like, a Catholic, you know, I grew up... So, you know, seeing her being that way, I've known people that had grown up like that, where they decide everything based on their religion. So, I mean, she sort of makes sense in that regard, but for a movie, it doesn't make sense. It would make sense in your private life, whatever, but in a movie where we're supposed to be entertained, where we're supposed to, like, care for this character, I really couldn't care less about her.
We don't even get any conflict with her and her father. They don't even get to share screen time.
No, and there's a build-up to the conflict. Oh, I don't know who my father is, or I don't talk to my father.
I don't talk to my dad. I haven't seen him in 12 years, blah, blah, blah.
Right, and then he's like, oh, you know, when he's talking...
He talks about he's not a great dad.
He's not a great dad. Yeah, I'm not a father figure. And all of a sudden, it's like, so she cares about him. Like, when she sees him, you know, dad is like...
Right. I would have been like, you know what, screw you. I'm happy.
Hey, that's what you deserve.
That's what you deserve, you deadbeat.
Yeah.
But... No, there's like a build-up to this conflict that never happens. He's unfortunately killed off, and that's the last we see of Christopher Plummer for the movie.
Off-screen, mind you.
A great character, and a greatly acted character, that's just totally mishandled in the third act.
Right.
But I do feel like there's some stuff in the third act that does work for me. Johnny Lee Miller gets more time to shine as his character, more reluctant hero, understudy of Van Helsing. So we have some really cool scenes with him and Jennifer Esposito, Omar Epps, all the fight scenes that take place there. I don't know how I like the Bible stuff.
I love the Bible stuff.
To me, it's just like...
Bible stuff.
I guess, like, it's fine. Like,
it takes his lore in a whole different direction. That's why it's my favorite vampire movie. Like I said, growing up Catholic, right? I've read the Bible, you know, backwards and all forwards.
They talk about vampires in the Bible?
No, they do not, unfortunately. It would have been a more interesting read.
Somebody should rework that into the New Testament.
It should be.
Yeah.
That's why it's my favorite movie. It's just that Bible direction that it takes. I don't know. I lost my entire train of thought there.
For me, I don't know how well that stuff worked. It kind of lost it for me. It lost the steam. I could have done without any of that.
No, I get what you're saying. I just loved it, and I wanted to get a little bit more of the story out of it.
Right. I guess it made me more...
And I guess we're going to just spoil the whole movie right now. Obviously, if you haven't seen this movie since, 2000
go see it. I think it's a very fun
film.
Go
see it,
I think you'll have a lot of fun with it.
We're not going to spoil anything on a 20-year-old movie here. So basically, at the end, it shows that Dracula became Dracula because he was originally one of the apostles for Jesus. Right. He was Judas who betrayed him. So, story goes, right, he goes to the Jews at the time and was like, hey, I know what Jesus is going to be. They pay him 30 pences of silver. And that's why now Dracula does not like silver, because that's the money he used to betray him. He hangs himself, tries to commit suicide, which is all in the Bible. He commits suicide. In this movie, though, the rope breaks and he's punished to... rule the land as a vampire for 2,000 years.
I feel like I would like that more if it was developed. There's a lot of stuff in here that I feel like, the runtime's about 95 minutes, 99 minutes. It kind of works against it in this case. Usually I like tighter movies, but I feel like when you have all this lore, it's okay to stretch it out a little bit. It's okay to develop our main character. By the time we get to her, like, it's farther into the movie.
It's about maybe 15 minutes left.
15 minutes into the movie, and we...
left and finally get a well-developed Mary, in a sense.
Right. But when we meet up with her, it's like we've already met all the other characters. We've met Van Helsing, we met the thieves, we've seen Dracula do his thing already.
Right, we've seen him give his sultry looks to everybody. Mm-hmm.
Oh my god.
We have a very cool sex scene in this movie.
I think I was telling Jess, like, if you're having sex in the air and then all of a sudden you go on the ceiling and you're like going and turning, like, there's no coming back. Like, no other guy could compare to that.
No other guy can compare to that. It's just unfair. And it's Gerald Butler.
But you know what? It's pre-fame, Joe. I mean, this is his first leading role. Then he got, like, a couple years later, 300, right?
Right, like 300.
So
yeah.
this is, like, his first leading role. And, yeah, he was a sexy guy.
He was a sexy guy. For somebody that barely has any lines in the movie, he's pretty charismatic as Dracula. Did his thing.
Yeah.
Did what needed to be done as Dracula. I got the backstory between him and Van Helsing. That was my favorite parts of this. I think this movie, I think it works. And I feel like it is redeemable because of the hip young cast and sticking to that formula, that sort of late 90s formula. There's a nostalgic feeling for that and how it's handled. It's very fun.
Yeah, it is. You know, I want to go back to one of my favorite kills, quote unquote, because, you know, she turns into a vampire, is Jerry Ryan's character, the reporter.
Oh, yeah.
When the guy's, you know, behind the camera and
Turned me on at 11 to watch these stupid bugs kiss my...
And then all of a sudden you just see nobody there, and you see, like, the cheek get cut open.
The cheek get cut open.
And he's like, looks behind the camera, and there's Dracula right there. Many years ago, I watched the unrated version of this with, like, the extra scenes. And the extra scene, I think they cut it off on the version that I saw, was Dracula was coming out of the water.
Oh,
So
shit.
you couldn't see it on camera when he was shooting Jerry Ryan, and then all of a sudden he looks behind and you could see him walking up from the water, walking on water, like right behind her.
That actually would have been a pretty cool moment to add in this, too.
They should have, but the theatrical one, which is the one I got watched yesterday, didn't have it.
This was a good choice for the show, I think, to piggyback off of what we did with Jason X, and we want to add it a little bit. It's a real Jason movie?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Jason X is in my top 3 of all time, Friday the 13th. But
Top 3?
Yes.
To be perfectly honest, it is a bad movie.
Don't listen to this guy.
I mean, that's the reason it's
they
on
wanted
here,
it.
right?
We talked about, you know, you love that movie for some odd reason, and then I didn't love it so much.
Top 3 Jason movies of all time.
That's ridiculous. But now we jump to, you know, we continue the horror trend. Now we're in vampire movies, and now, for some odd reason, you also think this is one of the greatest vampire movies.
One of the greatest vampire movies of all time.
Widely disagree with, but...
I could argue with anybody night and day why this movie is better than any of your vampire movies that you
Why
want
is
to
it
come
better
out
than
with.
Fright Night?
Why is it better than Fright Night? Because this is a sexier vampire. Gerard Butler's a sexier vampire.
Then Jerry?
Yeah.
Jerry's having sex with all the prostitutes in that movie, though.
Yeah, he's going to get a VD. Who wants a vampire with VD?
That's true. That's true, and he has like a very homoerotic relationship with his friend Billy.
And his vampiress is whatever.
True.
They're sexier.
That is true. He's got Jennifer Esposito.
Jerry Ryan and Vitamin C.
Exactly.
I think there's no arguing with the sexiness of Dracula 2000, but quality-wise, I think there's about 25 other better vampire movies that develop.
That's a lie.
No,
You guys know it's a lie. This is why this movie deserves at least a 50 on the tomato.
I would say this deserves at least a 45% on the tomato meter. I wouldn't be surprised if it got that. 17%, I don't know. At this point, everybody was getting very tired of that formula of what Scream did.
I mean, the Scream was good, but it really, I think, brought a lot of the horror genre down.
A lot of people have been arguing that lately, too. I've seen a lot of people talk about that, where it's just, yeah, Scream brought slashers back in the forefront, and it made a killing at the box office. But it also kind of forced every movie after that to be just like them.
It dumbed down a lot of the horror movies post-Scream.
But then we got some really fun stuff, too.
Oh, no, don't get me wrong. I love the fun. The Faculty,
I love the Faculty. You know what we got to cover? And we should cover it next week. We just keep covering this trend of late 90s horror. Urban Legend. With Jared Leto. Everybody's favorite...
Joker. Best Joker.
Everybody's favorite Joker. Everybody's favorite cult leader. Let's do it. Next week, let's talk about Urban Legend.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I think this will do it for this episode. I really had fun with Dracula 2000. I think it's a sexy movie. A little underwritten, but it's a lot of fun. The cast is having fun, and it's a bunch of familiar faces you like to see in this.
The watch is for the end, the payoff when you learn that Dracula is actually Judas.
That's the worst part of the movie.
That's the best part of the movie.
It's literally the most underdeveloped
It makes
part
sense
of it.
why he doesn't like silver.
Makes zero sense. But in a better movie, it would make sense. But it's just an okay movie, and that's okay.
You betray Jesus and you become a vampire. Sign me up.
That'll do it for this episode. Thank you
Sign
all for
me up.
watching. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you
Punch
comment.
Tony in the face.
Don't do that. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe.
Subscribe, people.
And join us next week when we talk about urban legend.
The call's coming from inside the house. Could it be an urban legend?
Because it's going to be awesome. And that's everybody. Everybody loves Jared Leto.
The best Joker.
Yes.
I said it.